Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty mid-tempo. The new course is available at Letsynthesize Academy.
Yo, the Larson here, welcome to the new Synthesize Sunday episode, and today I want to talk about my favorite synth to create awesome and dark reeses, very nice Neuro drum bass like Mefjus, Joe Ford, or even Black Sun Empire like this. If you want to dig into this project, go to my Patreon. I have tons of small projects there for Neuro and other styles, and click here for my academy if you want to dig deeper into knowledge. I have a Noisia style masterclass, but right now let's jump into it. Right, cool, so here is the drums. So the samples are the kick and snare, the shuffle, the end fill, and the rest are synthesized. So this clang, percussion, the ride, the hi-hat. So if you are into drum synthesis and or make your drums sound fatter and better, click there. I have an awesome course for that. I have some effects. Very basic stuff. But I guess you are more interested in the basses. Now, these are 8 tracks, so 8 different sounds, and 6 of them are vital. And in the last few weeks I realized how awesome vital is for these type of heavy basses, especially for Neuro. So the main bass is coming from vital, as you can see. And I also use a stereo noise layer on top. I have this ending reese, all coming from vital again. I have this chaos whatever. Sounds so stupid and so noisy, but I love it in the mix. I have this noisy Neuro whatever. Really low quality, like crunchy, almost like a Foley sound, but no, it is coming from vital, and I'm going to show you it in a bit how I made it. I have the distorted bass, and this time it is coming from Opera Simple because I had this previously in a different tutorial, in a different project, and I just drop it here. So cool stuff. And I have this distorted whatever. Sounds so cool, but I was not able to come up with this sound inside Vital for some reason, so I decided to do it inside Serum. This is why this guy is in Serum. But anyway, Vital is still an awesome stuff, and I have one layer for the reese, this simple stuff. But in the mix they sound so well together. Okay, so the main reese is so cool because basically it's just a saw wave. So let me show it to you. I have this saw wave and one sine for the sub only, and some bandpass filtering. And as you can see, I just added a little more voices to it, some distortion with the linear 4, that is one of my favorites, add grid, some compression and EQing. But the main thing that makes it so cool is in the automation using an EQ. So as you can see here, I boosted the mid. Because without boosting that mid, it's just not the same. But if you automate the mid boost, it's so aggressive and so heavy. So before the EQing I used a pedal, so a fast distortion and some reverb and the ending saturation to catch the peaks. But it sounds a little dumb on itself, it does not have the width. So I decided to add this compressed sine noise layer. And again in Vital it is super simple, a sine wave with some noise, filtered and distorted and treated. So there is a Haas effect here and filtered to get the shade that I want. Now there is a cool trick if you are into this sort of stuff, because without a shifter it sounds so weak. So let me show you with the reese. It's just not that aggressive. So that's why I added this shifter. I pull back the frequency by 1.4K. It sounds so aggressive and so deeper. I love it. Yeah, so if you like to add some compressed sine waves on top of your basses, this is a cool trick to, you know, shape your sound and make it unique. There is another nice reese here. Again, coming from vital. This time I use the square wave and some extra harmonics using the sine wave on 19, so 1.5 octave higher. So without that, it's boring, but with this added stuff, sounds so good. Also without the sync, it sounds cool, but not the same. And I use oscillator 3 as a frequency modulator for oscillator 1. Without that, add some nice grit to it, almost if it was a noise layer on the sound, but no, it's actually FM. So with some notch movement and bandpass filtering, I had to use a compressor, some distortion and some equalizer, and at the end just, chop off the highs. But basically what creates the sound is that extra 1.5 octaves higher sine layer inside the preset, distorted and compressed and stuff like that. So altogether, this is how they sound, but the spice behind that is that sine stuff. Okay, so I love this chaos bass. So mental. Inside vital, it's basically just a bandpass. It can be anything because what really makes the sound is a distortion. So my main workaround with reeses and with any heavy stuff is I'm using oscillator 3 for the sub, and as you can see, this is why it's here, and the vocal, by cranking up the vocal, I was able to create very nice harmonics, so the sub is a lot harder than just a simple sine. And like previously, I used a 3 octaves higher whatever waveform to add the higher grit to it. So it creates some mid and mid-high energy to cut through the mix a lot better. But basically, the bandpass filter is what creates that, because without that, and I use LE41 to, move the bandpass filter. Without that, it could be a nice reese, but basically the only stuff I did is just use an LE4 to play around with the bandpass frequency. After that, some sine fold distortion that are actually really important. Really brings up those harmonics and some compression and some EQing, but we needed a lot more distortion, so that's why I came to Ableton Saturator and actually the wave shaper, because if you crank up the curve on the wave shaper, it creates even more crazy harmonics. Without the saturator, it's still not there, so the low end is very powerless, I would say, but with the saturator, with the wave shaper mode, it's just mental, very noisy, but in the mix it sounds like a cool feel or a heavy percussion or whatever. Okay, I have a noisy Neuro stuff. This is what I call an awesome Neuro-ish kind of whatever, without the extra effects outside vital. It's just, what is this? But with the effects added to it, so crunchy, almost sounds like a cinematic horror scene, centipedes coming in and out, or I don't know. Let me deactivate the FX, going into vital. So the workaround is almost like making a reese sound. So all this stuff with the bandpass filter movement, with some noise on top of it. So basically I have two sound sources, oscillator 1 that is FM modulated by oscillator 2, as you can see here, and the third oscillator is just a sine wave with some noise and bandpass filtered. So weird stuff. I actually really like it without the bandpass filter here. Could be interesting to work with. The comb filter to add the higher frequency screech, and a phaser, and the regular stuff, distortion, EQing, and compression. So I have the bass sound, but I thought that maybe some extra distortions, especially with the wave shaper, would come handy. And it creates so nice grit. This is why I love the saturator wave shaper mode. Can create so much grit, and I thought that even more distortion needed, so that's why I added the amp. Now this is what I'm talking about, but before that I wanted to automate some EQ peaks, because if you add crazy peaks to before the distortion, it will create some extra very cool harmonics. So that is what I did here. So we are creating that almost like Foley sound on top of the sub. And I added an OTT and an EQ to shape the final sound. But this sounded a little strange on the top, so that's why I thought that maybe I should process the tops only. So I went back to the trick that I showed you in the beginning of the video with the distorted sine wave, so basically the stereo noise. So I applied this shifter and the vocoder and some auto pan to create that very nice grid on top of the sound. Without all these effects, but maybe let's use the EQA to create a frequency split. It's not that great, but I added the shifter and the vocoder to make it almost disgusting. And I was almost there, but I thought that I want to have more grid. So the auto pan with some LFO movement on the frequency rate is such great stuff. So with this we were able to create some nice Foley type of sine compressed bass. And it sounds so cool in the beginning of the track. And you can go back to Viral and still tweak the whole stuff. So for example, I really like the sound without the bandpass, without the outer effects. So let's see without the bandpass, with the outer effects. It's not bad, but it's not that crunchy. And with some extra flanger effect. And what if I modulate the frequency, the cutoff? It can be interesting too, but let's not use it now. Yeah, so I really love this trick. So I have this bass sound here. If you want to see how I made it, click there for the Mefjus type of video. And I love this sound so much. So basically the trick behind it is a little bit of FM and some peak using an EQ and then distort. So that little peak will create a very nice kind of extra harmonics in the sound. But then I applied another trick. So before that, let me show you without all these effects. So this is the basic sound, but with some process. So let me jump into Serum this time. So this is the from good to rude video that I modified it a little. Click again here if you want to check it. So I have this whatever wavetable. So this is a custom wavetable and frequency modulated by this stuff. So the low one was a little too much, so that's why the phaser here cutting the lows a little. Without that, it was just too crunchy, so that's why I applied it. I wanted to have screech instead of crunch. Anyway, some distortion. And the equalizer with the frequency peak here, as you can see, creates the magic. Some compression and low pass filtering with some movement on top of it. So the pure preset sounds like this. But I was like, this is not the frequency, this is not the screech that I'm after. So I applied this rag. It's so cool. So let me show you what it is. It's basically the same stuff, a frequency shifter only on the top band. So basically what I used here with the peak, I just pulled back in the frequency spectrum because I just was not able to do that inside the EQ. So without the rack, if I pull back this peak in frequency, I don't get the screech. So there is no screech there. So somehow I had to keep the screech and just pull it down in notes or in octaves. So that's why the shifter is here inside a frequency split rack. But this is still so dumb, I had to add some extra tops using the fast distortion. And we are getting to it. This time it sounds a little too raw, so I added an OTT. But I wanted to add some extra like metallic overtones. That's why the flanger is here. And it also cleans up the sound somehow, because it focuses more on the, you know, metallic sound on top. I had to add the reverb and some final equalization to get the final shape for the sound. By the way, here you can see the beautiful peak that we were able to create with that little nice EQ peak inside Serum. This guy here. And finally, this stupid layer is just so dumb. You will see that it's just two saw waves. One is 2 octaves higher, a huge low pass with some extra resonance to create some chaos in the sound, and after that distortion and some EQing. Don't forget about the unison voices here. But as a layer it sounds so cool with the other basses. Right, so go to my Patreon if you want to grab this project, and click here for my academy to learn more about music production. See you guys next time. Peace.